Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm George Thomas. Today, Israel officially launching its ground operation against the last Hamas stronghold in Gaza City. As the head of the Israeli Defense Forces promises, quote, "We will not stop the war until we defeat this enemy." We'll bring you that story from Jerusalem. Here at home, President Trump moving ahead with his plans to use federal troops against crimes in major cities. But a federal judge says the president can't use the military as a police force. Congress back in session after summer recess, taking on multiple issues, including the president's use of the National Guard and avoiding a government shutdown. And our Studio 5 conversation with the popular contemporary singing group MercyMe about their new music and upcoming movie. Those stories and much more today on NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We begin, though, in Israel, where the military operation in the last Hamas stronghold in Gaza City has begun as the leader of the Israeli forces talks of, quote, decisive victory. And as Israel launches a new surveillance satellite to enable it to keep an eye on even more of the Middle East. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us the latest from Jerusalem.
Israel officially launched its ground operation in Gaza City on Tuesday after a massive call-up of reservists. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu commended the reservists and noted Israel's victories in the war against Iran's proxies, but emphasized that Hamas must be defeated.
We're working to defeat Hamas, but along the way, we've worked wonders together because we broke the Iranian axis, both in Gaza, in Lebanon with Hezbollah, and with the Assad regime that collapsed. Also with Iran itself that posed existential threats to us, and we removed them together, and now also with the Houthis. But what began in Gaza must end in Gaza.
Some 33,000 reservists reported for duty and are gearing up for their entry into Gaza. Media reports said several thousand did not show up, but will report, mostly citing strain on families and businesses for their delay. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir thanked the reservists and said Israel will not end the war until the enemy is defeated.
We have already begun the ground operation in Gaza. Make no mistake, we are already entering places we have never entered before and operating there with courage, strength, valor, and an extraordinary spirit. I want to tell you that nowhere does the IDF offer anything less than decisive victory.
On the international front, Belgium says it will recognize a Palestinian state at this month's UN General Assembly, but only if Hamas returns all 48 Israeli hostages and is removed from power in Gaza. In the meantime, Belgium plans to impose sanctions on Israel. This morning, Israel intercepted a Houthi missile launched days after an IDF strike eliminated most of the Houthi leadership. Overnight, Israel's Ministry of Defense successfully launched the OFEC-19 surveillance satellite, considered a significant leap forward in Israel's defense capabilities in space. Its space program is credited with helping Israel achieve success in the war against Iran and throughout the region.
With OFEC-19's groundbreaking technology, will provide Israel with new operational capability and enable us to maintain our operational superiority in space. The Sword of Iron word and Operational Rising Lion clearly emphasize the strategic importance of the capability we developed and launched into space, confronting warfare across 7 active arenas simultaneously.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Yeah, some pretty incredible technology there. Well, our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is with us now from Jerusalem. Chris, both Netanyahu and the IDF chief sound very determined to finish off Gaza, but could this become a long, protracted guerrilla war in the city?
Well, I really don't think so, George, and here's why. The IDF has really learned a lot in the nearly 2 years of fighting Hamas. They want to minimize IDF casualties. They also want to minimize civilian casualties. What they're going to do, slow but methodical, they're going to use their use of munitions to destroy the Hamas infrastructure, which is formidable, a labyrinth of tunnels and booby-trapped buildings. But they understand as well there's a political clock that is ticking, perhaps with the White House wanting to get the war in Gaza over as soon as possible. Also, the international clock is ticking, as Julie alluded to in that report. They do want to finish the job thoroughly, but as soon as possible. Giving all these criteria, I really do believe it won't be too long based on what they've learned, what they need to do, and how they've learned those lessons over nearly 2 years, George.
Yeah, Chris, real quickly follow up. What comes next? If it's going to be a swift operation, what comes next?
The big question for the last almost 2 years has been what's going to happen after the war? Who's going to take over? Is the IDF going to have security control? Is there going to be some sort of civilian administration? Is that going to be from the UAE or Saudi Arabia? Going to have 2 million Gazans. Are they going to be allowed to stay? Are they going to go to other countries? That was alluded to in the report by Trump. What they want to have post-war. They want to make a resort and a sort of a industrial manufacturing and AI center. We'll see. But first of all, Gaza City's got to be defeated, and that's the next goal for the IDF and the government. And all of this happening in the view, obviously, of the Israeli public. How are they viewing the whole idea of the IDF going into Gaza City and taking it over? I would say there's two main points of view, George, for the people here in Israel. First is very vocal. It's they're doing civil disobedience. They're stopping traffic on some of the main highways here in Israel. There's massive demonstrations in Tel Aviv. Their view basically is let's stop the war. Let's get all the hostages back. Let's release some Palestinian prisoners. We want Hamas to be defeated, but they're willing to go ahead and stop the war. The other one, which is a very strong part of Israeli society, but less vocal, is that they want to make sure Hamas is defeated. And this is the view of actually some of the parents of those hostages still remaining in Gaza. They first want to defeat Hamas, and I think that is a priority for the country going forward. Chris, who would have imagined, right, 2 years ago that Hamas would be on the ropes, Hezbollah would pretty much be decimated, Iran's nuclear capabilities severely hampered, the Bashar al-Assad regime downfall, so to speak. How important are all of these victories for the security and the future of Israel? It's amazing what's happened, George. You were there in southern Lebanon just at the beginning of the war. And who could have imagined that Hezbollah, which was the strongest proxy of Iran, that Israel had been threatened by literally hundreds of thousands of rockets. And here we are. They're nearly decimated. They're actually having the Lebanese army actually disarm some of them right now. Hamas destroyed the Houthis as well, and Iran especially. The existential threat that had been looming over Israel for nearly 2 decades, destroyed right now. So here we are in a new Middle East. Going forward, we see the rise of perhaps an Islamic government inside Syria. We're seeing Turkey playing an increasing role in the Middle East right now. So we're kind of shifting from, a major Shiite axis that was trying to destroy Israel. And now maybe we're seeing the emergence of a Sunni axis that may pose a threat to Israel. But, George, as you said, 2 years ago, who could have imagined what we're seeing right now in the Middle East? Yeah. A real quick last minute here or so. How is Israel responding to the growing international move by multiple countries to accept a Palestinian state? Well, Israel's not taking it very lightly at all. But what they might do, George, and they might certainly fight back on the diplomatic front, but they might actually declare sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's coming here in about 10 days. Some people wonder is this related? The Knesset has voted a non-binding vote to declare sovereignty over the Jordan Valley, Judea and Samaria. Speaker Johnson, the third, person in the government in the U.S. actually visited Judea and Samaria. So that is a possibility to respond to these declarations of a Palestinian state on that September 2nd, 22nd meeting with France and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, terrific. Chris, man, you have such a wealth of knowledge. Thank goodness for you and the awesome team there in Jerusalem. Thank you so much. CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, as always, thank you so much for your insights. And as always, we look forward to hearing from you again in the days ahead. Coming up here at home, President Trump saying he'll send federal troops to major cities to fight crime, saying he has an obligation to protect the country. But guess what? The president is also facing opposition to his plan. We'll bring you that story when we come back. Welcome back. A federal judge has ruled President Trump broke the law when he deployed troops to Los Angeles over the summer. But the president is moving ahead with his plans to try to stop crime, saying he will send troops into other major American cities. CBN's Brody Carter has the details.
The judge said President Trump can't use the military as a national police force. The president argues it's his right and responsibility to protect people from violent crime.
Chicago is a hellhole right now. Baltimore is a hellhole right now.
Over the Labor Day weekend, at least 57 people were shot in Chicago, 8 of them killed.
If the governor of Illinois would call me up, I would love to do it. Now, we're going to do it anyway. We have the right to do it, because I have an obligation to protect this country.
Illinois officials quickly rejected the idea.
I'm aware that the President of the United States likes to go on television and beg me to call and ask him for troops. I find this extraordinarily strange, as Chicago does not want troops on our streets.
We do not want or need military occupation in our city.
3 weeks ago, Trump federalized the Washington, D.C. police and sent in the National Guard for support. Now, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is issuing an order to integrate local and federal law enforcement.
We didn't ask for any federal officers. We're driving crime down. But while they're here, how can we most strategically use them?
President Trump says the strategy is working, pointing to a drop in crime in D.C.
The Republicans, President Trump, this administration, thinks this is a politically winning issue, to be on the side of safety, to be on the side of fighting crime.
CBN chief political analyst David Brody says the issue is resonating with conservative voters. But the question of how federal force is deployed still raises legal questions.
Where it gets complicated is that federalizing or mobilizing the D.C. National Guard in the District of Columbia is different, because D.C. is not a state, than mobilizing the National Guard in states and cities that are in actual states.
According to this latest poll, crime is a top concern nationwide. 81% of Americans call crime a major problem in big cities. 53% approve of how the president is handling it. Still, few support a full federal takeover of local police departments. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Thanks, Brody. Still ahead, another government shutdown? Taking on that issue is just one of the concerns for Congress as they return to our nation's capital from their summer recess. We'll bring you that story right after this. Well, Congress has come back from summer recess, and lawmakers have a number of pressing items on their agenda, including preventing a possible government shutdown. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London tells us what's coming up.
As the fiscal year winds down, the clock is ticking on funding the government.
They either need to figure out a way to hash out another full year budget, or pass a stopgap measure to just kind of punt and give them more time to work out a longer deal.
Editor and publisher of Inside Elections, Nathan Gonzalez, says a deal won't likely happen without bringing a few Democratic senators on board, which could be met with opposition.
Once again, we can expect another fight about government and spending, with the potential of a government shutdown if people don't come to an agreement in enough time.
House Republicans have also undertaken a number of federal investigations, ranging from the Epstein files to holding members of former President Biden's administration accountable for covering up his health and ability to govern. Gonzalez says this could distract lawmakers from top legislative priorities. A few weeks from now, President Trump's executive order deploying National Guard troops to D.C. will be up to Congress to resolve.
He has 30 days, and then that power goes into Congress's hands. What happens next, or what are you expecting from that?
He's supposed to get congressional approval. Now, whether he does that, or whether he just kind of pushes forward until somebody tells him that he can't. We'll see. Maybe President Trump thinks that 30 days is enough to get things cleaned up and start moving to Chicago or Baltimore.
In recent days, the president has also mentioned asking Congress for $2 billion in federal funds to beautify D.C. Money Gonzalez says could be difficult to get, considering Republicans took out $1 billion of D.C.'s own revenue from the budget they passed earlier. Looking ahead to midterms, the GOP's ability to hold on to their razor-thin majority will rest on how voters feel the president is doing.
Help people get a sense that the country is headed in the right direction. If President Trump has a positive job approval rating, if people believe that the country is headed in the right direction and they feel secure, then Republicans have a chance of holding both the Senate and House.
Redistricting fights are underway that could affect that. Texas has approved a new map to elect more Republicans, while California is trying to do the same for Democrats. The president continues to press more GOP state legislatures to follow Texas's lead. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is shoring up support for other blue states to do the same. Michelle London, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, London. Coming up, our Studio 5 conversation with a famous contemporary Christian music group, MercyMe. We're going to talk about their new film and their new music. We'll bring you our Studio 5 conversation with the band when we come back. The 2018 hit film, I Can Only Imagine, gave audiences an inside look at a dramatic, real-life story behind one of a well-known Christian band's most popular songs. The band is MercyMe. And guess what? They have come up with a new movie in the new year. They also have a new music available right now. The band sat down with Ephraim Graham to share wonder and awe.
My fate was sealed. You said my days were numbered. Case closed with no appeal. My future 6 feet under.
So is making an album an ongoing process, or is it just you write the songs all the time and let's get into the studio?
Yes to a little bit of all of it, I guess. This album took about 1.5 years. It kind of started with us working with our producer, Ted T, and just playing around with songs. And next thing you know, we realized that I think we're making an album.
Messing with my head in ghost fashion. My heart was holding its breath. Terrified of taking my last one. Oh, death, you scared me to death.
The way the songs ended up, I think, potentially is because we weren't really thinking album from the beginning. And so the songs there's a lot of different styles on here that if we would have thought too hard about it, may not have made the record, like Canary in a Coal Mine, stuff like that. But Ted was really encouraging of like, man, this music's coming out of you guys. Put the album out. Don't worry about the rules or whatever. And so we had a blast making it and just finally happy it's out.
Do you sense an overarching theme on the whole project?
That's a good question. Should have thought about that.
I would say, like, to me, like, it's just a really joyful record. You know, there's heavier content in it, but like, the whole thing just points to joy for me personally. I know the concept behind it is being caught by the wonder and the awe of God, which sometimes it feels like we've lost in the church. But I think that comes immediately with joy of what we've been given.
My faith don't flinch at your wrath. Never gonna get off of my shoulder. You thought you had the last laugh. You thought this song was over.
The album was either going to be titled Wonder and Awe or Sing Like You've Already Won, and they both kind of applied to what we're going for. And it's a little bit of what I said earlier about how we started writing without really thinking of an album, and so the songs were kind of all over the place. But there was, part of it felt like we were teenagers in a garage band again, like, just not really, if there are any rules, not really playing by them. And so there is like this childlike kind of thing about a lot of these songs, whether it's Fred Astaire or just stuff that just, you know, we said 30 years ago, man, if it doesn't pull at their heartstrings, then just try to make them dance. And so it's just, I think there's just I don't know if a childlike wonder, but there was just a different approach to this album, and that kind of led me to actually writing the song Wonder and Awe and talking about, you know, I'm not sure where our childlike faith grew up. And so I think musically, the album, that just kind of seemed like the appropriate title for the album and this bunch of songs.
Indeed. So this is the 12th album. What have you learned from the previous 11 that you brought into the studio this time around?
I learned to enjoy it. You know, it's, you know, we've been doing this, we started in '94, so it's you know, I mean, we've said for the last 15 years we feel like we're on borrowed time, but people keep listening to the music. But yeah, I think whenever it stops being fun, you know, and I don't know if we would do it much longer, but yeah, I think our level of gratefulness is probably at an all-time high, and we're old enough to realize and understand how fortunate we are to get to do this for a living. And so, you know, yeah, that's what the last 11 albums have taught me, is to enjoy it every step of the way, because, you know, we're doing something it's pretty special, I feel like, as far as just being able to do it this long.
That's so cool. You can catch MercyMe in a city near you in coming weeks. The MercyMe Live 2025 tour continues this fall. Grammy-nominated recording artist Natalie Grant will join them along with music newcomer Sam Welshi. And join us tonight for an all-new edition of Studio 5. We are sitting down for a one-on-one conversation with Jordan G. Welsh. She's a chemical engineer and now a stellar award-nominated singer and songwriter who has a passion for worship. Well, folks, you can catch that new episode of Studio 5 on the CBN News channel at 8 Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app or on YouTube. Well, folks, that wraps up this edition of NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our exciting news programs on the CBN News channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Tell us what you think about the great stories you've seen here by emailing newswatch@cbn.com, or you can reach out to us on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you will join us again next time. From all of us here, goodbye and God bless.